I took a trip to Hawaii, and here's how it went. Just to make sure everyone's on the same page, my best friend booked me a one-way ticket to Hawaii, and only gave me 2 days notice. So I've done absolutely zero planning. I mean, honestly, even if I had time to prepare, I probably wouldn't have planned anything anyways. It's more fun when you don't know what's gonna happen. Moving on, I started in Florida, which means I had to fly from Florida to Texas to California, and then finally to Hawaii. Whew. I actually had a surprise layover in LA, so thankfully I was able to get some sleep. Granted, it was in the middle of the airport, but it's fine. Whoa, this airport looks like a botanical garden. Clearly, we've made it to paradise, and that means I need to get some wheels. Well, this scooter was the cheapest thing I could find, so I'm gonna roll with it. Since we're finally here, my first stop is gonna be the beach. I mean, where else would we go? Now that I'm fresh and clean, it's time to go take a look at the island. Now, I did land pretty late today, so I won't be able to go very far. While I was driving along the coast for about 10 minutes, I came across this cool rock formation, and when I went down to explore it, look what I found. Zoas! Oh, this is my favorite coral of all time. It literally comes in every color combination you can think of. And not too far from that little cave, I found what looked to be a natural jacuzzi. It may be a little on the cold side, but I think the views more than make up for it. Moving on, it's time to find a place to sleep. The lights from this cruise ship in this city were honestly beautiful, so I think this is the perfect spot to go home for the night. If you weren't aware, I'll be sleeping in a hammock this entire trip. One, it's more fun that way, and two, hotels are pretty expensive, especially in Hawaii. To start off the beginning of day 2, I'm gonna take a dip in the ocean. I am not a morning person, and with the 6-hour time difference from Florida to Hawaii, I definitely need the help waking up. Now it's time to grab a little bit of breakfast. If you were curious how I'm gonna keep my phone alive this entire trip, all I have is this power bank right here. Now if it dies, it does have a solar panel to recharge, but it's really slow, so we probably won't be depending on that. It's time for our first adventure, and according to Siri, there's a waterfall over here. I just have to find it. Unfortunately, I didn't see any signs indicating where it might be, so I'm kind of just gonna walk along the road till I find it. Hey, look at that. If you didn't know, I'm actually a professional at improvising because I never plan anything, so I knew we would find it. What I wasn't expecting though was all this trash. Definitely wasn't expecting that. I don't know how far this waterfall is, so I'm just gonna walk up the stream until I find it. They don't have alligators here, right? Well, we found the waterfall. It just wasn't really what I was expecting. I found a tadpole though, so I'll take it. According to Siri, the next closest thing was something called Pali Lookout. Despite them trying to charge me for parking, this place was absolutely beautiful. And on my way out, I spotted an unmarked trail, so of course I'm gonna take it. I wonder if it takes me to a higher viewpoint or something. Okay, this is definitely a lot steeper than I was expecting. On top of that, it's super slippery, and the fact that I have to carry a 70-pound bag on my back probably isn't helping that much. See, I told you it was slippery. I think instead of carrying it around, when I get to the top of this hill, I'm just gonna stash it somewhere and hope nobody finds it. Yep, that spot looks good to me. Well, I can officially say that this hike has turned into more of a climb. Well, it's a good thing I ditched the bag. Oh, this might be a little bit more than I signed up for. Well, I didn't know it when coming in, but apparently we're scaling a mountain. Is this a good time to mention I'm terrified of heights? Well, I am. And this is definitely not what I thought I would be doing when I woke up this morning. That being said, we're almost to the top, and I can't bring myself to stop now. Why is everything wet? We are so high, we are literally in the clouds. But we made it to the top, so I'm gonna call it a success. Now we just have to head back down. This was definitely more of a controlled slide than it was a climb, but we managed to make it back in one piece. I feel like I lost a few years off my life. Hey look, a chicken. And just so we're all on the same page here, that is where we just came from. You know, with the part up there that it's so high you can't even see it because it's above the clouds? Yeah, that's where we were. It's safe to say that my white shoes are no longer white. After our little mountain adventure, it proceeded to rain for the rest of the day, so I decided to take shelter till it stopped. Thankfully, it did finally stop, or else we'd be sleeping in the rain. But now that it's over, it's time to find a place to go home for the night, and I think these 2 trees look perfect. It's definitely super windy though, so I might have to bundle up so I don't get cold. I am a Floridian after all. Just waking up on day 3, and I was immediately ambushed by a bunch of birds. They had the audacity to come and steal my breakfast, and they didn't even say thank you. Now that I'm done being robbed, it's time to take our morning dip. And while I was walking along the beach, I stumbled across this sailboat. If you didn't know, I actually used to live on a sailboat, and my plan was to sail it from Florida all the way to Hawaii. I think this sailboat's a little bit too small to live on though. Well, since my breakfast got stolen, it's time to go grab something to eat. You might have noticed that I've been locking up my scooter every time I park it. Well, that's because apparently there's a lot of theft on the island, and would you guess it, scooters are the #1 most stolen thing, so better to be safe than sorry, I guess. While I was eating my breakfast, someone told me about a trail called 3 Peaks. As the name would imply, it's a trail that takes you to 3 different mountain peaks. But honestly, after yesterday's climb, this one should be easy for me. Adding to the fact that we actually have a trail to follow this time, so I don't have to worry about slipping and falling falling to my demise, so mentally, this one should be a lot easier. Whoo! And we made it to the first peak. I gotta say, the view is definitely worth it. Now we just have 2 more to go. Nice. The second peak didn't have as much of a view, but it did have a cool hammock to chill in. But the third peak, I wouldn't say its views were as good as the first one, but I did get to see some really awesome sun rays. Now it's time for my favorite part, heading back down. And since this was 3 separate mountain peaks, there was still a lot of climbing to do. After setting up my hammock in a couple of trees, it's time to move on to day 3. Of course, we have to start off with a little bit of breakfast, and right outside, there was actually some sort of market going on. And since I'm already so close, I might as well go check it out. Now, I do have to carry everything in my backpack, so I probably won't be buying anything, but it's still fun to— what the fungi? That is a large mushroom. Now that we're done with the market, it's time to head to our first adventure, which admittedly is pretty tame considering the trail is paved, but who doesn't like a nice, easy adventure sometimes? Our destination was this lighthouse lookout, and I gotta say, this was absolutely stunning. Somehow I was sweating more. Hang on a second. What is that? It looks like there's people down there at those tide pools. Well, if there's people, I'm willing to bet there's a path. Right before I made it to the bottom, I got sprayed by this blowhole, and honestly, the temperature of the water was so refreshing that despite the danger, I had to go for a swim. Now, the waves were pretty similar to this back when I lived in Japan, so honestly, I expected this much damage, and considering the fact that I got to chill with the wildlife for a few hours, I'm gonna say it was definitely worth it. Now it's just time for the walk back down. I know the path is paved, but my calves were on fire. I'm not kidding, it was so painful. Now it's time to fuel up, because we're headed all the way to the North Shore, and considering the fact that I'm on a scooter, it took me quite a while to get here. Luckily, I was just in time to see the sunset. Now it's time to find a couple of trees and set up my hammock for the— oh, it looks like my hammock might be on its last leg. I really hope I don't fall through it in the middle of the night. Luckily, it looks like we made it to day 4, and I've got to say, this is definitely the best view I've woken up to. Now, the reason I came up here is because I heard there's a lot of pro surfers, and even though I know how to surf, I'm definitely nowhere near a pro level. So I was really excited to just come up here and watch these people show off their skills. I'm curious how you paddleboard in this wake, though. Aw, there's a lot of wild birds on this island, and they're weirdly friendly, too. Probably because people are nice to them here. Now, despite the fact that I'm eating cookies for breakfast, I like to think that I'm pretty in shape. That being said, these last 3 days of hiking have seriously worn me out. So I think I'm just gonna take today and look around some shops. Again, I have to carry everything in my backpack, so I probably won't be buying anything heavy, but I am keeping an eye out for souvenirs. I always forget to buy them, so I'm hoping that if I start looking now, I won't forget. I came across this really cool, like, vintage t-shirt shop, and I gotta say, wait a minute, they have snow in Hawaii? Moving on. After a full day of window shopping, it's time to find a couple of trees to call home for the night. Now, since I did rip a massive hole in the bug net, I do have to sleep covered up from head to toe, which is pretty uncomfortable, but it's actually super cold here at night, surprisingly, so it could be a lot worse. To be fair, it might be my Floridian blood that's making me think it's cold. I mean, anything below 70 degrees, and I need a sweater. I guess a part of my shirt was lifted up last night because the mosquitoes went to town. Just like I'm about to go to town on these jumbo shrimp. Wow, the flavor was so good. The only problem was I had to peel the shell off of the shrimp myself, which was kind of a lot of work, and I'm super lazy. Since I took all of yesterday to recover, you know the first thing we're doing today is going on a trail. Now, according to Siri, there's a waterfall over here somewhere. I just have to find it. Okay, I've been walking for about 3 hours now, and now that I finally made it to the top of this hill, I got a little bit of signal. While I was up here, I found out that this trail is 16 miles long. I don't think we have enough daylight to make it there and back, so I guess we'll have to try this tomorrow. Ooh, what's this? I wonder if it's edible. Probably better not to find out. I think the scariest part about this trail is that it's constantly branching off in other directions, and if it's 16 miles long, considering the fact that I'm directionally challenged, it would be pretty easy for me to get lost. I was definitely starving considering I spent the entire day walking through nature, which definitely isn't a bad thing, by the way. Considering that the last one was a letdown, it would have been nice to see a waterfall. Guess this is what I get for not planning. Oh well, I woke up bright and early, and I did a little bit of research, so now I'm fully prepared to take on that 16-mile hike. As it turns out, it looks like we won't be taking on that hike, or doing much of anything actually, because it looks like last night this scooter actually got stolen. After walking a few miles to grab some breakfast, I gave the scooter company a call, and they sent someone out to pick me up. It did take a little while though, considering I was on the opposite side of the island, but ever since I've been here, I haven't booked a return flight, and I think this is the universe's way of telling me it's time, and that means it's time to shop for some souvenirs, like this t-shirt shop, who apparently dyes their clothes with everything except for clothing dye, including peppers and coconuts. At least the clothing smelled good, unlike me, which is why I'm gonna head to a laundromat. After all, I wouldn't want the person sitting on the plane next to me to have their nostrils burned off the entire flight. Now that I'm squeaky clean, it's time to call an Uber. I went to book a flight, and somehow they had one available same day, so it looks like I'm heading home ASAP, which means we're nearing the end of the video. And if you made it this far, thank you. I would love to hear your feedback. This is my first YouTube video after all, and if you did enjoy it, consider subscribing, because I will be making more vlog type videos like this in the future.